Welcome. I'm J. Michael Silver, and this is Foundational Steps, a show where I talk with people about the choices they make to get where they are in life now. In this episode, I'm talking with Dr. Nothabo Ncube. Dr. Thabo has an amazing life story. This episode was a long time in the making. We really focused on her journey of becoming a doctor, working with Oprah, and how she is inspiring others to achieve their dreams. Links for Dr. Thabo and timestamps for everything that came up is in the show notes. Please support the show by leaving a comment or a review. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And check out our affiliate links for cool things you might find of value. Enjoy our conversation. All right, Dr. Thabo, welcome. Thanks for being here. Been a bit of a technical fiasco, but I'm glad we're actually able to record.
Right. Thank you for having me, Michael.
Oh, absolutely. So this is like, I think, round 4 of trying to find each other. So I just want to jump in for the sake of time. And I just want to ask you, this is um, just in a nutshell, when was the first moment where you felt like you were in your body, looking around at the world, and you knew the decisions you were making actually impacted your reality, and like there was like this give and take of the outer reality and the inner reality, if that makes sense?
Right. I would say for me, that moment was when I was invited to share my story on the TEDx platform. You
That's a
have
big
to
deal.
recognize that, Michael. I'm a girl child who was born in Zimbabwe. And ever since I was young, my dream was to become a medical doctor. And that's the highest dream that I possibly could have held for myself at the time. So when my mother passed away, I made a promise to her to become a medical doctor. But what I didn't realize in that moment was that the act of actually making that promise to my mother, saying, Mama, I am hopeful. I'll try by all means and I'll strive to be a medical doctor. That was actually um, that was actually me putting those words into the universe.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
And yes, and giving the universe the permission to co-create this dream with me and bring me into a place where I actually, could say I'm now a medical doctor.
Yeah.
And so for me, that opportunity to be on that stage, on the TEDx stage, um, made me realize that I've always been led and guided, that I've always been creating
Hmm.
my reality through my thoughts and through my words, you know,
Hmm.
like as I mentioned, making a promise to my mother when I was 14 years old, and how I ended up moving from Zimbabwe to Canada, and Canada afforded me that once in a lifetime opportunity of not only becoming a medical doctor, but now also using my voice and my story to impact hope and to inspire for positive change.
Yeah.
So, and actually, even before the TEDx stage, I got invited to be part of Oprah Winfrey's live class on
Yeah, which is
Become What You
amazing.
Believe, which was back
And
in 2011.
And
So,
that was before you, that was after you had moved to Zimbabwe, but that was before you became a doctor or right after you became a doctor?
that
Had you
was
started,
actually, I was just starting medical
you're
school
just
at the
starting medical
time.
school?
Yes.
That's
So I
amazing.
had made a promise to my mother to become a medical doctor at 14.
Hmm.
And then around at 16, 17 years, that's when I moved to Canada. And then at 22, when I was just starting medical school, I sent my story to Oprah Winfrey for that live class on You Become What You Believe.
Mm.
And I was one of the people that were selected to be a part of that intimate and interactive discussion on the powerful thoughts and words creating our outer reality. So that TEDx moment for me brought all those full circle moments into one big. I would say the TEDx stage was a reminder that everything that had been happening to me ever since I was a young girl,
Hmm.
that it was divine, that it was because of my words and my my words and my thought process about who I was, what I was actually putting out into the universe, and also the Oprah opportunity. It's not always that you receive such an amazing, powerful opportunity.
Oh no,
So
that's a big
just
deal.
being there, yeah. So just being there and surrounded by all these phenomenal women, and Oprah Winfrey herself was a reminder to my 22-year-old self that, I can become whatever it is that I desire to be. But most importantly, to your point, that we are the creators of our destiny, that in
Hmm.
each and every moment, through our words and thoughts, we are creating our destiny. So nothing just happens. It is because of what we believe to be true about ourselves. It is because of the narrative that we hold to be true about ourselves.
Absolutely. The story we tell ourselves.
It
And the story
is.
we allow other people to tell us about ourselves as well, because sometimes people tell us not nice stories and we decide to take that on as our own, and that
Yeah,
hurts us. But then someone else comes in and tells us a story. It's like, well, I like that story.
yeah,
I
yeah.
like the way you look at me. Let's go with that. And all of a sudden your life changes.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
I'm curious, if TEDx was like the big moment of, wow, this is all happening. I did this, the choices I made, and it got me here, and this is all real. I did this, and this is a co-creation, with the universe and the powers that be, and me, and this give and take. Before that, like, let's, for instance, because meeting Oprah and doing that program, that's a big deal. And that came before the TEDx experience. So what was it that made you even think that you had a shot, or that you should take a chance? Or was it just on a whim? Like, why did you even apply for that program?
For the Oprah Winfrey
Yeah.
program? Okay. Oh my goodness. So this is how it happened, Michael. I was actually just starting medical school, and I didn't have money to go to
Mm,
school, and I'd just been applying to a lot of different organizations and banks,
yep.
and they needed me to have a co-signer. But I was coming from community housing, and didn't have a home or mortgage to back up my application.
Right.
So I kept on getting declined. And one day I was talking to a friend of mine who was actually based in the US, in Indiana, I believe.
Okay.
And she's like, I know you've been struggling to get money to go to school, but Oprah Winfrey is all about empowering the girl child and women through
Hmm.
education. Maybe you should go on her website and you may land on a bursary or a scholarship.
Yeah.
And so, I followed her lead. I'm not of the generation, Michael, that grew up watching Oprah Winfrey. It's
Hmm.
my mother's generation that grew up watching Oprah Winfrey.
Right.
So for me, of course, I knew that she was a powerful voice of hope and inspiration. I was aware of that, but I was not one of those people that religiously
Yeah.
followed Oprah,
A- and there is that, like, religious like quality she has, because for
Yeah,
the decades that she had her show, and all the
yes,
giveaways and all of the service that she gave to her viewers and to the world at large, I mean, there's a kind of a religious quality. So I get that. And so for you not to see her like that and just understand the iconology of her presence, and I mean, that's pretty amazing that you're like, why not? Let's see what
yes, for
happens.
sure. Yeah, so I literally just followed my friend's lead and went on the website. I was looking for bursary scholarship. There was nothing connected to that. The
Hmm.
first thing that popped up was tell us your story. You
Mm.
become what you believe. And
So
I
you're just
followed that
following the breadcrumbs then.
literally. And then I quickly typed in at the age of 14 in Zimbabwe, my mother passed away in a tragic accident. As I was watching her lying down in her coffin, saying my last goodbye, I made a promise to her to become a medical doctor. I said, Mama, Temba, which means Mama, I am hopeful. I continued and said, I will try by all means and I'll strive to become a medical doctor. Literally, that was it. And then that's how they um, called me back, went through 2 series of interviews with them. And fortunately, my story aligned with the theme for the
Yeah.
live class on You Become What You Believe.
Hmm.
I can never forget that experience. I think at the time that it happened, my awareness of that experience was definitely different to now.
I bet.
Now it's making more sense as I'm looking back in hindsight. I recognize that that was actually a spiritual experience. That was actually God's whisper, speaking to me, guiding me, and leading me into the fullness of who I am now
Hmm.
and who I'm still becoming. And it is because of that life class that I stepped into, that I had enough courage to step into my power, to
Hmm.
share my vulnerable truth with the hope of inspiring people and giving people hope. So I have 2011 to thank for that
Yeah.
opportunity. It took me a long time to get there, of course, because I had to first finish medical school, graduate,
Hmm.
then that's when I started speaking. So, but that Oprah experience was definitely, what
It's huge.
changed and shifted the trajectory of my life. And I'm even more grateful for it now than I was then.
Oh, I'm sure you have to be, because you just have so much more to show for what you've been through. So you've gained so much more. So just to kind of let's because it's an interesting moment in time. It's such a pivotal moment before you were really fully aware of the power that you wield in saying, I'm going to do something and make it happen. You were following the whims of a friend who said, hey, check it out, maybe, and then you just followed the breadcrumbs. So in the taking of the class, obviously a lot of, and correct me if I'm wrong, please, but a lot of what the class focused on with Oprah was to really step into your power and step into the creation of your life, writing your own life story. um of course, now it makes more sense, but at the time, was there any hesitation, or were you just saying, hey, going with the flow got me this far, I'm just going to keep on going with it and take what I can take? I mean, what was the thought process? What was the kind of experience, if you can remember, in the moment, not looking back, but like, as a young in medical school, taking these classes, what was that moment like in that taking those courses?
Right. I have to back up a little bit, Michael. There's a part of my story that I didn't share earlier concerning that moment, actually.
Okay.
I had put down my cousin's phone number. So they kept calling my cousin and she kept hanging up on them. I believe it was after the second time that she reached out to me asking me if I had sent my story to them.
Mm.
So, and I said yes. Then when they called back, that's when she was able to transfer over my number to them. Then they were able to contact me directly.
Mm.
Now you can imagine I was only 22 years old and by no means famous or anything like that. So the fact that they kept calling for me was a huge sign and
Yeah.
whisper that I was supposed to be there.
Yeah.
And I remember my cousin saying I was really rude because I thought it was one of those scammers,
Scams, right?
calling me. Yeah, that's what she thought. But they kept calling. And for me, it was, even in that moment, upon recognizing that they kept calling for me, it was humbling.
Mm.
But now I recognize that I was supposed to be there. I was supposed to experience that moment in the way that it showed up for me.
Hmm.
And, you know, the life course was really about inspiring people to take charge and control of their lives and for people to recognize that they have within them the power to create
Yeah.
whatever it is that they um, whatever it is that they believe is meant for them, because
Hmm.
all things are possible. So it was truly about also Oprah Winfrey sharing her story about how she came from rural Mississippi,
Hmm.
coming from a poverty-stricken background, but still emerged as a voice of hope and inspiration. So it was a true testimony of that we all can
Yeah.
turn our struggles into strength and our pain into our calling, you
Yeah.
know. And, for me in that moment, I didn't see it as that it was part of um, a divine unfolding of my journey.
Right.
I was going with the flow. But truly, what I really wanted was money to go to school.
Yeah.
And I didn't get any money from Oprah Winfrey to go to school, but what I received from her was a wealth of spirituality that has been a divine guide leading me to this moment where I'm able to stand fully in the power of my voice right now and use that which life has given me to connect with people from different walks of life. And most importantly, to bring people to a place of recognizing that they have always been led, that even in this moment, they're being guided into something more and bigger than
Yeah.
themselves. So, yeah, to add to your point, that moment for me was really truly about flow. I just trusted it, flowed with it, surrendered to it, and allowed it to be exactly what it was supposed to be in that moment. And that belief of allowing and surrendering to the divine unfolding of my destiny is what has led me here, is what has led me to you.
Yeah.
And
me
I,
to you. I mean, this is how we all get where we're at, whether we recognize it or not. I mean,
yeah,
part of what I think is amazing about what you're saying is there wasn't a spiritual sense prior to going into this program. You were just following the breadcrumbs, going with the flow. And yes, there's a spiritual component to the training, but even if that wasn't there, you, by virtue of, creating your life or co-creating your life, however you want to look at it, you end up starting to see patterns, and you end up, like, even if you take some of that training out, correct me if I'm wrong, you start to see patterns, and you start to see, oh, I made this decision, this got me here, by standing up and being strong, or just taking a chance, even as scared as you might have been. You were able to ask for things and then receive things and then give things that couldn't have happened otherwise.
for sure. You know, I I allowed myself to receive, you know. One of the most powerful things that I'll never forget from that live class, Michael, was this. I remember the lady, one of the ladies who was actually one of the teachers for the night. She said that we all have the power to bring into manifestation whatever it is that we desire, that we all have that power to create, to manifest, to be, you
Yeah,
know.
absolutely.
And those words have never left me. And I believe every manifestation that I have brought into physical reality from that moment leading me up to now is because of the words that the lady shared
Yeah.
on that night. You know, so which is why I was saying to you earlier that the wealth of spirituality that was deposited into my being on that day, in that moment, transcends anything money could ever be able to buy, to be honest. And that's what now has also kept me grounded and centered in the power of awareness of that we're all part of this energy field, this vibration that is constantly conspiring with us, co-creating with us, and bringing our desires into reality. And it's a gift that I want and I intend to share with the world, hoping that other people can see a piece of themselves in my journey, in my truth, and be reminded that they too have the power to create, to become, to evolve into something that is bigger and grander than where they're coming from, you know.
No,
I mean,
I'm curious. So, because I'm thinking about, there's people that I've met over the years, and they lead incredibly simple lives. And the grandness of their life or their spirit is not like you or me or Oprah, not to compare ourselves to Oprah, but in terms of being public and sharing, but you can you can see it in their generosity, and you can see it, their spirit. It just will fill the room, but they're not necessarily outspoken. They're not necessarily maybe they're a librarian. I've met some just really interesting people over the years. A mechanic who like couldn't be nicer and couldn't just be more grounded. He loved what he did. I had a friend in college. He was a pipe fitter. He was a welder, and he just loved it. And then he got to do his music on the side. I mean, these are not magnanimous
Mhm.
pursuits, yet you can see their generosity and their spirit and their kindness just
Yeah.
was giant, and where I've met quote unquote important people that just kind of seemed not so happy and not so big, and they just kind of seem small in their high chair and their all their money. And so I'm just wondering how you relate, because you now have the understanding that what you got is priceless, that spirituality and that ability to understand the power to create in your life is priceless. And the grandness isn't about being Oprah. Now you want to share it publicly, I want to share it publicly, but for those people who don't want to share it publicly, living a simple life, how do you see it? I mean, do you see it the same way I do? I mean, like that you can be grand and amazing and beautiful and blissful in just the simplest, most modest
Yes.
ways?
Yes, I do. I'm with you on that one, Michael. I always give an example of my mother, who was
Mm,
a teacher back home in Zimbabwe. She taught kids who were coming from low income homes, and she did it to the best of her
yeah.
abilities. She loved to teach, she loved to inspire kids. And I think one powerful thing that I've learned about my mother now is that
Mm,
she was by no means famous,
yep.
she was just a community leader, um, who had so much passion to teach,
Mm,
to the point that she would teach kids who are coming from low income homes, marginalized communities, and they'll come out on top, beating
yeah.
kids who are coming from affluent homes, beating kids who are coming from private schools. So the
She changed
life my
people's
mother
lives.
to change people's lives
Yeah.
through a simple life.
Yeah.
You know,
That's
she
amazing.
wasn't famous, she wasn't rich, you know, but what she did was she connected with people who were around her, with kids who were around her. And
Mhm.
that's what it's about.
Yeah.
So when I look at her, she was big not in her own special way. Her light changed the lives of those that encountered her. And it doesn't mean that her impact or her influence is lesser than Oprah's, because
Yeah.
she was living a life that brought so much joy and happiness to her. She lived a life of meaning, a life of
Yeah.
service. And that's what truly matters. So
Yeah.
if
And
you're
that's a
able to
beautiful thing.
find, yes, so if you're able to find that sense of peace and joy in what you do, whether you're a janitor, whether you're a
Hmm.
nurse, a teacher, or you're an Oprah Winfrey,
Yeah.
it's all the same. The goal, the intention is to live in and through your God space
Yes.
and serve and connect, help, do whatever it is that you can to shine a light in another's life.
Yes.
The goal should not be to be famous. And I always joke around about this, that if I could just share my truth, my story, my light with people, and they'll just hear my voice and really not know who I am, I'd be okay with that, because I'm
Yeah.
such a private person, and I'm also an introvert. Though a lot of people don't believe that. A lot of people think that I have a big personality because they see me on big stages.
Yeah.
But I'm an introverted person, and I love my quiet time. I'm a loner,
Oh, I get that.
and it's the time where I think I get to recharge.
Yeah.
You know, I
I'm
come to
similar.
personal opinion.
Yeah. It's
Mhm.
funny because, for me, I have I've been obviously performing my entire life, and I love having an audience. I
Yeah.
love, but I would say the majority of my time,
Yeah.
in any given day, I like to be removed. I like to be alone. I like to be out in
Yeah.
nature. I like to be reading. I want to just kind of let the world swirl around me and just kind of observe. And it's a beautiful thing to, I think, understand, what you like and what works for you, and then be able to go there. And, you being an introvert, and but also being really good at, showing, people what's inside, like, as
Um,
a gift. And it's amazing that you're
definitely.
willing to, share your gift, because it's kind of what your mom did. I mean,
Yes.
and you're doing it in a different way than she did it, because you're a different person, but
Yeah.
you're in a lot of ways doing exactly what she did, just in your own way.
You are most definitely right. And, I always say she's my guardian angel.
Believe
And
it.
she actually set a healthy precedence of what a leader looks like,
Mhm.
because she was really most concerned about the change and impact that she was having on the lives of the people that encountered her. It wasn't about the money for her, it wasn't
Mhm.
about becoming famous or anything like that. It was truly about service. And of course, life is giving me a bigger stage and bigger platforms to do that, in which I'm very much grateful for the opportunities that have come my way. But I recognize and I'm very much cognizant of the fact that what I do is not in any way different to what my mother used to do. It's just maybe I'm being given bigger platforms and
Yeah.
opportunities, obviously, to share that truth, to share my voice, but with the same intention as my mother, to inspire, to empower, to educate, to enlighten, and to help bring people to the center of who they are, their
Yeah.
spirituality, their truth, and hoping that as they unfold their individual journeys, they'll also come to a place of recognizing the power of who they are.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, and it can be done in so many ways. I think the celebrity side, or the fame side of things, is
Mhm.
not a road that most people, I think, would want to take or would be comfortable taking. And it
Mhm.
requires, like, from friends and or from,
Yeah.
jobs I've done where I've been around, celebrity. um I can only imagine it's a lot of work to
Yeah.
manage that energy, and that kind of, um people wanting a piece, and everything else.
Mhm.
But if you and this is the reason why I think everyone, the social media, it's like everyone can just work on themselves, be their
Yeah.
own little celebrity, without having to have thousands or millions of followers. You can have 5 followers. You can have 5 students every year, you know,
Yeah.
that, you're a janitor, you're a mechanic, you're a teacher, you're a whatever, and you just share, what you
Yeah.
love. And,
Yeah.
like, that's the world is changing for the better if that's all everyone does, is just kind of focus on their little lane. And,
Yeah.
you know the the joy that we have in any situation will get people treating us as if we're Oprah Winfrey.
Yeah.
They'll, without them having to know who we are.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely.
And that's, I think,
And
something that everyone can learn, is just to be their best selves, and everyone will treat
most
them.
certainly, most
Yeah.
certainly, I always say that to people that I don't do what I do so that way I inspire you to be who I am.
Yeah,
I do what I am to inspire you to be who you are supposed to be.
exactly.
I'm not Oprah Winfrey. I'll
No,
never be Oprah Winfrey.
and you don't
I
want
am
to be.
no, I just want to be me,
Yeah.
and really that's all that life calls for us to be
Hmm.
ourselves, to live in our truth, in our own God power.
Yep.
Allow that unique light to shine. That's what the world needs. I was saying to my sister friend the other day that, you know, when we deprive ourselves of living in our truth, and we deprive ourselves of living out our calling and purpose in God,
Mm-hmm.
we deprive the world of the gift that we
Yeah.
are.
Yeah.
So really, it's all about us being courageous enough to stand in that which we are.
Yep.
And that is enough. And
Yeah.
that is enough, Michael. And you actually brought me to a place of recognizing that the last time when I was preparing for one of my talks. I was a bit nervous and I was speaking before corporate Canada.
Mm-hmm.
They we ended up having a turnout of over 1,000 people.
That's
And
amazing.
I remember saying to you, I don't know what I'm going to tell these people. I'm a little bit nervous. And you say to me, just go as you are, and allow your consciousness in that moment to speak in and through you as God in that moment. Don't get over yourself. Don't be conscious about what you're saying, how you're saying it.
Mm-hmm.
Just be present with the moment. Allow that moment to be exactly what it's supposed to be. And the people in the audience are actually going to get it in the way that they're supposed to
Yeah.
understand it, in the way
Absolutely.
that they're supposed to receive it in that moment. And that was so powerful for me, Michael. It was so powerful. And it's something that even now, I had a meeting earlier today, and I truly didn't know what I was going to, how I was going to propose, the business plan and so forth. But I just went there and I say, this is who I am. This is this stage that I'm still at.
Yep.
But this is what I believe I'm supposed to give to the world,
Mm-hmm.
and it always works when you're
Yeah.
yourself, and the right people will see it,
Mm-hmm.
and the people that won't see it, they're not supposed to be a part of your journey.
Exactly.
And that too is okay,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. I mean, and you can't speak to everyone all the time. I mean, if social media and movies and TV and Oprah, I mean, if they've taught us anything, they've taught us that there's only a percentage at any given moment of the people that are within earshot are going to be able to take in our words, hear us, see us, and be able to, interact with us, because they've got their own lives, they've got their own thing. And if they don't intersect with us at that right time, then they're not going to line up with us. And that's okay. Now, in Oprah's case, she just happened to be the right person at the right time with the right, message in the right, form package, however you want to put it. And she was able to align with so many people at the same time. That's such a rare thing. There's musicians and actors and poets and even politicians that can do this. And, I think everyone does it in their own way, but for
Yeah.
whatever reason, there's some people that just, they get amplified at the right time, right place, they get
Yeah.
amplified. And then they
Yeah.
amplify other people as you've been amplified.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and then they amplify people. And then hopefully it's just a reciprocal. It's like we all say, as you've learned and as you're now spreading, what you've learned is, hey, you can do it too. I've done it. Now you can do it.
Mhm. Sure.
And whether you want to stay a janitor or stay a doctor, that doesn't
Right.
matter. What
Yeah.
matters is be happy and do what, drives you in whatever ways that is
Mhm.
uplifting you and the community and
Mhm.
everyone around you.
For sure. That is powerful. To add to what you were saying, it's truly about alignment,
Yeah.
Michael. It's about us being aligned to who we are, to who we truly are. And the example that you've just given of Oprah Winfrey, I couldn't have said it any better.
Mm,
She came into the playing field at the right time with the right message, and was an embodiment of the truth that people needed at that time.
yep.
And the dots connected,
Yep.
And she was very much centered in who she was, in her truth, and the world and the universe responded positively
Mm-hmm.
because she was able to stand in the power and in the force of her being, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And that in itself is a gift.
Oh, it's an amazing gift.
To recognize that which you are, to recognize your spirit, your soul,
And then
and
not
to
to turn away from it,
not to turn away from it.
or run scared. I mean, that's a
Or
whole nother power. And I mean, there's a skill to it that anyone can learn, but it's
there
still,
is,
it's
I
amazing.
always say this to people, that she was successful as she was because she has always been centered in who she is, in
Mm-hmm.
God, and she has always led a surrendered life.
Yeah.
She lives in the space of flow.
Yes.
She's one person that fully understands what it means to live in flow.
Yeah.
Because you and I, Michael, would agree, because especially in that as an actor, you just live in the space of flow. You don't know where your next opportunity is
Right.
coming from.
Exactly.
You're just living a surrendered life, trusting each moment, trusting each opportunity, and believing in that naturally everything is going to come full circle and life is
Mm-hmm.
going to bring you to where you're supposed to be,
Yeah.
So I think it's a gift, it's a special gift to live and to lead a surrendered life.
Yes, I agree with you. I mean, there's something, so even for the people that don't want to, take on a spiritual existence, they're not ready for it, they don't believe in it, whatever it is, the concept of flow, I think it's been studied in the lab. It's scientific. There's a reality to it. Every single athlete gets in flow. Every single musician, is looking for flow. And I feel like it's a gateway, like flow state. And the ideas around flow is a gateway to anything and everything that people who are spiritual, like you and I, people who do use some sort of religious, spiritual, context, God, universe, however they speak about it, the flow state is what gives access for everybody of any thought process background to access that same divine experience.
Right. Right.
And so, you talking about flow, and it's literally, there's I don't know, have you ever read the book Flow by who the man, I believe it's a man, Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. I'm not saying that right.
No.
I'm butchering it. I'll try to remember to put it in the show notes in case anyone cares. But I believe he's a Hungarian person who literally studied what he then called flow state. And then flow state became popular because of this person. And he identified, if I remember correctly, 8 points that that basically make up flow state. And let me just see real quick, because it's such an interesting thing. If I can quickly find that in my notes, because I've taken extensive notes on flow state, and maybe it's easily accessible flow state. I don't know. Maybe this is not going to happen because I have it here somewhere. But there's 8, if I remember correctly, 8 tenets to being in flow state that he, and it's like, it's got to be difficult, but not too difficult. You've got, you engage, time seems to kind of disappear, and you're just kind of in it, in the flow, in the motion, in the moment. My brain is tripping me up right now because I want to remember exactly how it was said and not my interpretation. But anyways, that flow state is so important, and getting into the flow or the rhythm, like you were talking about, being in alignment, and finding that alignment, and learning how to surrender to that alignment. Like your friend said, hey, you need money, check out Oprah, like, and you just Okay. Tell my story. Okay, I'll tell my story. And then here we are 10 years later.
And I think the power lies in being able to follow those pebbles, being able to follow those whispers and signs along the way. I always say this to people, Michael, that we are all always being guided, all of
Hmm.
us. We're all always receiving whispers and signs.
Hmm.
But sometimes we are too busy, being busy, doing nothing,
Yeah.
and to the point that we miss on those signs and whispers. And one of the the most, I would say, awakening moments I have received as well in my journey was that it's never too late to
Yeah.
go back into the vibration of
Yep.
your energy field, of your path, of your purpose, of your journey.
Hmm.
If I missed that whisper last year, it'll come back again in a different way.
Yep.
Maybe 2 years later, maybe 3 years later.
Yep.
But you are never too far gone and out of reach of that energy field. It's
Yes.
there. It's always working with you. So when you allow yourself to flow with it, life is going to constantly give you as many chances as you believe you deserve,
Yeah,
simply
absolutely.
because you are aligned. You're aligned with that energy field and you're allowing it to serve you, to
Okay,
help
so
you remember.
because we are in such agreement, and I love everything you're saying. So I would love, if you could, especially during that time when you were looking for money for school, you were applying and going through the process of getting into Oprah's program. How were you, especially then, because you hadn't fully stepped into the release of the spiritual flow and getting into, so how did you deal with the stress or anxiety or self-doubt? How did you deal with those internal pressures and external pressures in those moments while you were going through all of that? Because I'm sure it was very different then than it is now. So
Oh, for sure.
how did you get through that? Because anyone else that might be listening to this,
Mm,
there's a good chance they haven't gone through Oprah's program. They
mm,
haven't gone through medical school. They haven't achieved, these big things that you've accomplished. So
mm.
they might be in that, oh, I want to do this, but money, or I want to do this, but I don't know how. Um, so how did you deal with those stresses? Like, was there self-talk? Was there exercise? Was there meditation? What coping mechanisms did you have back then?
At the time, I would say, well, for starters, I'll say self-talk.
Hmm.
The conversation that I was constantly having with myself during um, that dark time, because it was really a dark
Yeah, I
time.
bet.
You can imagine getting to a point where you're, almost achieving your lifelong dream of
Just
becoming a medical
right
doctor
there.
right there. And then, you run into a financial predicament
Hmm.
and um, you're not able to cross over, right? You know, I constantly, I constantly reminded myself that I just didn't get to that point, that the same hand that led me to that point was going to guide me and help me cross over
Yeah.
and get to where I'm supposed to be. And at the time, I was very religious, I would say. I used to go to church almost every Sunday. And I remember I met this lady who was amazing. She would
Mm.
cover me in prayer, pray with me sometimes over the phone. And that helped me as well during the time. Um, she spoke power into my life. She spoke faith into my
She
life.
believed in you.
She,
I mean,
she
it was someone that believed
believed
in
in
you.
me. Yes, yes. And from a biblical standpoint, I know there's a verse in the Bible that says, where two or more are gathered in my name, there will I be. And
Hmm.
I think for me, the way I've come to understand and the way I have come to interpret that verse is to say, it's important that you surround yourself around positive thinkers, positive people, people who believe in you.
Yeah.
And, when you encounter positive energy, an energy that is coming in agreement with you,
Mm-hmm.
the chances of you attracting and manifesting whatever it is that you need are higher,
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
that is what you're constantly putting out into the universe.
Mm-hmm.
We don't just get here, Michael. We get here because of our thoughts, our words, what we believe to be true. And I have to say this as well. I'm very much thankful and grateful for my mother.
Yeah.
She was my first teacher, primary caregiver. Ever since I was young, Michael, my mother would say to me, "You are a star." Ever since I was young, she believed in me more than I believed in myself.
That's
You
beautiful.
know, she actually, even my desire of becoming a medical doctor, she was the first one actually to speak that into my life.
Mm-hmm.
So even when she had passed away, that sense of grounding and awareness was already there in terms of self-belief.
Yeah.
I already knew who I was. I already knew that I had the potential to achieve whatever it is that I desired.
Mm-hmm.
So I say this to say that it is very important that we speak positivity into the lives of kids, even if they're not necessarily your child.
Yeah, 100%.
Really setting a healthy precedence for their thought process, for their mindset, and
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is that you're speaking into them, they'll hold on to that
Yeah.
and they'll run. So I'm
Yep.
very mindful of the things, of the conversations that I have with young kids. And truly, they believe whatever it is that you say to
Oh,
them.
yeah.
Right?
Because they're new to the
So,
world. They don't know any difference. And so if you tell
yeah,
them it's possible, then they say, oh, it's possible. And they
for
go, okay.
sure. Yeah, so I would say the voice of my mother kept me going even during that dark time.
Yeah,
It
that's
kept me
amazing.
together. It kept me fighting. It kept me hopeful, hopeful that something would give. And something did give. And by the way, when I was just starting, I so happened to be in a hair salon around that time when I was still looking for money to go to school.
Mm-hmm.
And the lady who was doing my hair was actually carrying a Pathways to Education magazine. And I had been highlighted in that magazine as one of their gifted kids.
Oh,
And,
wow.
she took interest in my story and wanted to learn more about me. And as we were talking and engaging, she found out that I had intentions of one day becoming a medical doctor. That matter of fact, I had just been accepted into medical school. And then she started asking why I wasn't in medical school at that time. And I
Mm-hmm.
was vulnerable enough to tell her that I didn't have enough money to start. And she she said, "I'll talk to my husband and see if we can help you in any way."
So is that how you got some or all of the money?
Yes,
Like
no, some of it.
some of it.
So
Wow, that's
2
amazing.
days after, she called me back and she said she was going to give me $10,000 to start medical school.
That's amazing.
And that for me also is a reminder that we attract what we are, we attract what we believe to be true about ourselves, what we believe we deserve. The universe is constantly aligning us
Mm-hmm.
with the right people. And usually, honestly, it's through strangers, like this woman who extended that grace to me in that big way. I mean, now I understand that it was definitely a miracle, right?
But had
But
you, but this is a key thing in my mind for people to hear, for anyone and everyone that's listening. You said you felt vulnerable and open enough. I don't know, not your exact words, but you were vulnerable in that moment enough to actually tell her that you didn't have the money. Had you been proud, had you been guarded and like, nope, I'm doing great, would
yes,
never have known.
mm,
You would have never
yeah,
gotten that money. And
yes, for sure.
and
Yeah,
that takeaway for me, like I want to remember that because, sometimes I get proud and,
we all do.
we all do.
Mhm. Yeah.
And like, I just want to remember for myself, if no one else is
Mhm.
listening, I want to remember for myself. being vulnerable, and this is really what acting is all about, being vulnerable is what opens you up to people that gives them the ability to then give to you. You have
For
to be
sure.
open and then they can give to you. And,
Sure.
life isn't about, being of service. I was thinking about this today because I've been kind of outlining a, a little something I want to write about being of service and the importance of it. And being of service, doesn't necessarily mean all you do is give, 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 because the joy of giving, you have to give that to other people sometimes. You have to give them the joy of giving to you sometimes.
Yeah.
And it's something that I think gets overlooked, but in opening yourself, you gave someone the opportunity to give to you in a way that they obviously didn't have anyone else in their life that they knew that needed this. They had the ability, you inspired them, and they wanted someone to allow to pour their love, their joy for life, and their success into something, someone, somewhere. And you came along and said, I'm here. I'm happy to give you that joy, and I will respect it and in every possible way and pay it forward. And your spirit said that, and their spirit said, absolutely, here's 10 grand. Like that's
Yeah.
the way I'm interpreting it. I think that's a beautiful number.
Sure. Yeah, and that's how I have also always interpreted it, Michael. And it said that the lady passed away in 2019, 2019 December, no, November. And I remember leading up to her death, I had an opportunity to talk to her, one on one. And I say to her, what made you help me? Like, really, what made you help me? And partly, Michael, that question came from a place of, I was disappointed that she had found herself in that situation, that diagnosis of cancer.
Yeah.
And at the time that I was having this conversation, she had been given 1 month to leave.
Oh,
And I hadn't done much for her to just say thank you. Not that she needed me to say thank you in any way, but
it's not about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure if nothing else, there's just the ability to sit and recognize each other in that moment.
Yeah,
Must have been something.
exactly, right. And she said something that was very powerful. She said, Thabo, no one has ever helped me in my life. But so I didn't do it because I was paying it forward or anything of that sort. But when I saw your story, something moved in me
Yeah.
and compelled me to extend myself to you in that way. It has something more to do with your spirit, your energy, who you are, than anything. So never forget who you are. And, that conversation has never left me, Michael.
That's powerful.
And
That's amazing.
it was powerful, but it also brought me to that place again of reminding me that when you have a dream and it's aligned with that which the divine has set for you, for your life, miracles are bound to happen. The right people are going to come along your way, and they're going to serve the energy of your personality. They're going to serve the gift in you because of, obviously Spirit already knew who I was.
Yeah.
Spirit already knew that one day I'll be sharing these stories with the world. And I didn't realize that at the time. I was just going through life's processes and allowing,
just following the breadcrumbs.
Yes. It's my pain that led me here, Michael. It's my pain, my challenges, my circumstances that allowed me to write this story. I didn't choose it.
To be honest, I don't know. I feel like it's everyone's pain is what leads them where they're at. It's how they deal with their pain. And if they fight it They end up in
Yeah.
one place. If they
Yeah.
embrace it, they end up in a different place. And
Mm,
it's it's the old saying, it's not a matter of it's not a matter of if something happens to it, it's how you react.
yeah.
And that's really, pain is mandatory. We've got this meat suit, this physical body, and it's designed to feel all kinds of things,
Mm,
physical, non-physical, and that pain is going to happen whether we like it or not. But what we do with it is up to us. Suffering is optional. And it's one thing. I'm sure during some of your dark moments you
mm.
wanted to give up and you just
I
wanted
did.
it to end. But as the old saying goes, this too shall pass. So you let that go, and then you returned back to the positive self-talk, thoughts of your mom, and that's where or how you ended up here.
Yes. Oh,
I
yes. That's
mean,
how I
on
ended
on
up
the world
here.
stage at a TED Talk, with Oprah, I mean, all of the things you've accomplished is because no matter how bleak it seemed, you
Yeah,
were able to let that go and
for
and then
sure.
return to that
Yeah,
baseline.
definitely. In 2019, Michael, I was selected as top 4 immigrant women of inspiration all over Canada.
Wow.
And I was actually put on the cover page of that magazine. I remember when I received that email, actually, they didn't tell me that they were going to put me on the cover page of that magazine. They just told me that I had been selected as top 4 immigrant women of inspiration.
Hmm.
And that was a bit heavy for me to receive in that moment. I literally say top 4 immigrant women of inspiration all over Canada. Really? And then when the magazine came out, I guess it was supposed to be a surprise for me. I was
Yeah,
on the cover page.
that's a surprise.
It was a huge surprise. But then again, I said, oh, wow, is it that girl from Zimbabwe? Is it that girl who went through this and that to get here?
Hmm.
Is it the girl who met Oprah Winfrey in 2011? That girl who was just following the pebbles, the breadcrumbs along the way, leading up to being on the TEDx stage, and then now here, top 4 immigrant women of inspiration. Wow.
Yeah.
And then I ended up getting selected again to be on global news TV, for one of the TV series, Whatever It Takes. And just last month I was selected by CBC News. It's one of the TV stations out here.
Hmm.
In celebration of Black History Month, I was selected as a Black leading voice. So all these moments, and I say this with humility, Michael, I recognize that these moments are bigger than me.
Yeah.
All these honors and awards, they're bigger than me. They're part of the miraculous unfolding of my divinity.
Hmm.
But all these things too are happening now because in 2011,
Hmm.
I surrendered to that moment of meeting Oprah Winfrey.
Yeah.
Because in 2003, when my mother passed away, I surrendered to that moment of pain, allowing me to make that promise to my mother.
Right.
In 2017, I surrendered to that moment of actually being vulnerable enough to share my story on the TEDx stage. So
Hmm.
it's a accumulation of a lot of divine destiny moments
Hmm.
that needed me to step fully into
Yeah.
who I am, into my truth.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
it's this yin yang dance of life,
Hmm.
you know, duality of existence, I choose to call it, where I've allowed myself to be used as a vessel, to co-create and bring to life that which I am in spirit into the physical realm, into the physical world. But really, it's so beautiful now to observe the pieces of the puzzle as they have come together,
Yeah.
leading up to this moment. And I stand in awe of God, of grace, of divine intelligence that has always been conspiring in my life, with me, for me, in me, through me as God. And now I can truly say our pain is our greatest gift.
Mhm.
Our pain is leading
Yeah.
us to who we are, to
Yeah.
who we're supposed to be. Our pain is meant to help us remember who we are.
Yeah.
And that has been true for my journey. At every moment, like, what we're talking about earlier, the promise to my mother, the Oprah experience, there was pain there,
Sure.
It was pain. Pain was a driving force, a driving factor, and it's beautiful to now to look at all these different pieces of my journey come together
Mm.
now and allowing them to dance along each other, and yeah.
I'm curious, can you say that your some of your experience, the pain, the journey that you've been on was to heal yourself from that pain, heal yourself from the trauma of losing your mom and making this promise and learning what you have to do and whatever's necessary and following those breadcrumbs. It's really about healing that pain in yourself to a certain extent. Yes.
It is.
And
I
there's
think
that, I mean, because there's that saying of hurt people, but there's also the converse, which I think is becoming a more popular phrase, which is healed
yeah,
people heal people.
yeah,
And you're in a position now, you're, not that you don't have pain and not that you still don't
yeah,
remember, but you are on the healing path. You are working on yourself to make yourself the person, that whole healed person that you always saw yourself to be. And
yeah,
it's not about perfecting that. It's about being on the journey. And now you can share
yeah,
that and other people can be healed from it
yeah,
or see
yeah,
how to do it for themselves.
of course, definitely, yeah.
And
So
that's part of what I think is amazing about you sharing your story, is
mhm,
because just like Oprah, being from the middle of nowhere, and then becoming who she became,
mhm,
you were, for the the middle of somewhere, not the middle of nowhere, but the middle of somewhere.
yeah,
But other people don't know where that is. Other people don't know what that experience is. And so being from somewhere totally foreign to other people, even maybe in your own home country, you're able to now speak and give light and give voice and open up possibilities for people because you're willing to share. And that's really amazing.
amazing. You articulated it better than I ever have.
Well, I'm sitting here thinking about it, and I've,
Thank you for
got.
this moment for telling me, you know what, Thabo, this is what you're called to do. I felt that, Michael, and that is true. That was powerful. That's exactly what I'm doing, and it's also so uplifting, I think, for me when I receive people telling me exactly what you just said. You
Yeah,
opened me up, you shifted my awareness and you made me recognize that I am possible,
yeah.
that I can achieve whatever it is
It's
that I
it's
set out my mind to do, right? And
Yep,
that's why we do what we do.
yep,
That's why we stand in our light.
yep.
That's why we stand in our pain, in the glory of our pain, because ultimately it is the gift that keeps on giving if
Yeah,
we allow it to give.
yeah,
If we allow it to give into us, and if we allow it to transform us
yep,
into our greatness.
yeah.
So thank
And
you for pointing out to that.
yeah, no, I mean, and I want to thank you again for being here. I think, this is kind of a good place to wrap up. And what I would love, if you've got anything going on, and I'll put it in the show notes, but how can people reach you and what should they look for? Obviously, they can find your TEDx talk on YouTube.
Mhm.
And I know they recorded your Business Canada or Canada Business
Yes,
talk.
yes, 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 yes.
So how can people find you? What's your website? And I'll make sure to put it in the show notes as well.
Yeah, for sure. So people can find me on Instagram. I'm Dr. Thabo, DRTHABO, and I'm on Twitter as well, DRTHABO_. And my website is drthabo.com, DRTHABO.com,
Awesome.
and if it is that you need somebody for an event, a speaker,
Yeah.
I'm available. You can just reach out to me through my website.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I thank you so much. And I think, we'll have to do this again at some point in time. Thank you for going through this roller coaster, just technical difficulties and everything else to get here. So
I
thank you
know.
so
But the
much.
most important thing is that, we managed to get that feast and we managed to have this conversation. And we're here now at the end of the
Yes.
conversation, right?
Yes, exactly. We did it. We got one in the can. So this is awesome. Don't forget to leave a comment or a review. I'd love to hear your thoughts. New episodes every Tuesday, and check us out on YouTube for short clips from each episode. Thank you. And until next time, remember, your life story is yours to write and rewrite as many times as you want.